Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today we're Masechtas Menachos, daf Yud Beis. We're going to begin with a Mishnah on the bottom of Yud Aleph Yud Beis. Hakaimetz es a mincha. It's a lengthy Mishnah. A lot of it is very similar to Zvachim. That when it comes to Kamitza, it has to be done properly, and you cannot have an improper machshava. So we know that when it comes to having an improper machshava, that you want to do something chutzim kaimo, the wrong place, no kares. However, if it is chutz lizmanoi, outside of the right time, so because you are doing the things incorrectly with time, so you get the punishment of kares, which is linked to time. So hakaimetz as a mincha, so lechol shireha, let's say your intention, you have this pigul machshava, of eating its leftovers b'chutz, again this is the wrong place, o kazayis mishireha b'chutz, or for that matter, even a small amount of it outside of the azara, lahaktir koimtza b'chutz, that you're going to burn the kamitza outside, which again is an improper machshava, o kazayis koimtza b'chutz, even if it's just a kazayis being burnt outside, or for that matter, to be makter the lavaina, which is supposed to be done inside. So in all these cases, pasul ve'in bokaris, because again, this is all linked to place, no kares. Rashi says the machshava poiselos bein shechishev l'achilos adam, bein shechishev l'achilos mizbeach. So it doesn't make any difference if your machshava was incorrect about eating, like for yourself, or also being makter the ketairis, which is on the mizbeach. As the pasuk says, Rashi quotes, we had this in Zvachim many times, so we learn out from there that din. It says, B'shas hakarava nifkol. At the time that you're makriv it, that's when it becomes pigel. B'nu nifag b'shlishi. Alba b'machshava mayri, shechishu l'echel mimenu b'shlishi. Because your machshava is that you wanted to eat it on the wrong time. V'ksiv im ha'ochel ya'ochel, that if you would eat it, b'shtei achilos hakas medaber b'chilos adam b'chilos mizbech. So it doesn't mean that you get kares with this improper machshava, which is possible. But it means that if afterwards a person would taka eat it, then there would be chayv kares. Okay. Lechol shireha. Let's say his intention was to eat the leftovers l'machar, which now is not chutzlim kaimai, but it's chutzlim zmanai, time. Or for that matter, ukazayis mishrel l'machar, lahaktir kumsul machar, ukazayis mekumsul machar, lahaktir lavayin l'machar, as we continue to Yud Beis Amud Aleph, pigel. But not only that, but if a person would eat it, then chayv will have kares. Okay? And Rashi says, ha'oichel mishiri mincha. It says that the avoin you shall bear. It says the same words by Nicer. So just like when it comes to eating Nicer, it's supposed to be based to strof, it's supposed to burn it. But if you eat it, then it's a chiv kares. So to over here, it will be a chiv kares if you ate it. Zekal, this is the general rule. Kol kaimetz, anyone does commit to own nisin b'kli. You put it into a kli. Hamoylich, hamaktir, lechol davar shedarko echoil. It's something which is fit to something, a food that you could eat, which means it's again it's achilos adam. O lahaktir davar shedarko haktir, which is achilos mizbeach. So if it's chutzlim kaimai, that's the wrong place. Possibly bo kares. Chutzlizmano, time, then piga b'chem of kares. Uvilvad shiakrav hamatir kimitzvasai. However, it's necessary that you have to be makrav the matir in its proper way, and this is we're going to explain this. Ketzad karev hamatir kimitzvasai. What does that mean? So kaimatz b'shtika. Let's say you did the kimitza with a proper machshav, nothing wrong. However, nasam a kli, put into a kli v'hoylich v'hikter. But your machshava is all this was chutz l'zmanai. Oh, shekamatz chutz l'zmanai. you had the intention of Kemitza Chutzlas Mano, Nasim B'Kli B'Hoyach V'Hikter B'Shtika, but no improper thoughts about anything else. Everything else was done well. Oh, Shekamat Nasim B'Kli, you did the Kemitza and you put into a Kli V'Hoyach V'Hikter Chutzlas Mano, but you made that mistake. Zehu Shekarev Hamatir Kemitzvasai. Basically, there was no other psul. Ketzad loy karv hamatir kemitzvasai kamitz chutzlim kaimai. If you did kemitza and you had the wrong proper thought that was going to be done outside the wrong place, nasam mikli b'hoyach v'hitir chutzlas manai, and all of a sudden you have a different machshava within the same carbon. You have chutzlas mano and chutzlim kaimo for two different parts. Oh, shekamatz chutzlas manai nasam mikli b'hoyach v'hitir chutzlim kaimai. Oh, shekamatz nasam mikli b'hoyach v'hitir chutzlim kaimo. Zehu shloi karv hamatir kemitzvasai, because you had this mixed bag of some, which was chutzlas mano and some chutzlam kaimai. Says Rashi, ma zevach nifko b'dal avodah shchita v'kabal halacha b'zrika, as is mentioned in Torah's Kohanim, so too when it comes to mincha is also four avodos. Kemitzas keneged shchita, kabbalah keneged matan kli, halacha is halacha. And the Haktaira, the Kemitza, is like Zrika. Okay. Says Rashi, Im Yesham Psul Acher Sul Pigel, the Ein Bokaris. The only time is if it was only this and nothing else, or it wasn't both. One was Chutzim Kaimo, one was Chutzim Mano. Even though you had Chutzim Kaimo in Chutzim Mano in there, there's no karis. Minchas Chayte and Minchas Kanois, when it comes to these mincha offerings, in which there is no oil and no frankincense, shekamsin shlosh shman. And let's say you did the kemitza with the wrong improper thought. Nasam b'kli b'hoyach v'hikter chutzlas manoi. Namely, let's say for example you have chutzlas manoi, or shekamatz chutzlas mano. You did the kemitza chutzlas mano. That was your machshava. Nasam b'kli b'hoyach v'hikter shlosh shman. Now shlosh shman means, let's say, for a different carbon. So it was not done within the framework of being chayav pigel that you be chayav kares, because it's only if there's no other psul. But over here there's another psul. Says Rashi, yesh behen oid psul acher hamoitzim midi pigel kigon shlosh shman. So when it comes to this, it's possible to be shlosh shman. The psula im kaimso Shaloi Lishman, will carve hamatek mitzvaso, then be shiraim kares. So be no din kares if again it was lishma, shlo lishma, and all for a different carbon, different mincha. Fine. Lechel kazayas chutz kazayas. Let's say a person has intention to eat a kazayas b'chutz and kazayas l'machar and kazayas l'machar. So both thoughts were in the same avoda. But one of them was b'chutz, and one was at the wrong time. Kazayas l'machar, kazayas b'chutz, which is the other way around. So the question is, maybe it matters which machshava was first, the time one first or last. Again, kazayas l'machar, kazayas b'chutz. Kachatzi zayas b'chutz, kachatzi zayas l'machar, kachatzi zayas l'machar, kachatzi zayas b'chutz. Pasul v'ein bo karis. So in all these cases, it doesn't make any difference. Even if the first one was about zman, there's still not going to be a chiv karis in that, because it was done in this, even though it was done in the same avoda. Kazayas b'chutz, kazayas b'lamach. Rashi says chisha b'achas havoidais. In the same avoda, you have beis machshavos, right? Shechisha b'shteim ba'avoda achas, or Behuda hu de itzrach deloy tema shechisha b'shteim b'shtei avodos hu de plig, or Behuda baser the baser kamaisa zlinan. We're going to see maybe sometimes when you go baser kamaisa is only when there are two different avodos, but maybe when it comes to one it's different. Okay, so the Himokar. So Amr Behuda zeklal imach shavas hazman kadma. If you had time first. Even though it's true you had both machshavas, one of time and also, which and one of place, and place is no kares. But since the first machshava, we go bust on the first machshava according to the Shita Rabbi Huda. However, therefore, for that reason, machshavas hamakim chadam machshavas zman pasul vein bo kares. It doesn't make any difference. If you have in the same avoda, you put them both together, there's never going to be a din kares. It's only if it's just one, specifically chutz lezmanai. All right, so that was a lot to unpack. So iboilhu with divrei ha'omer, according to one who says that shirayim shechasru, that when it comes to if you have shirayim that got missed, let's say you lost some of it, there's still some left. Ben kamitzah l'hakatayra, after you already did the kamitzah, you didn't burn it yet. Makter kaimitz lehen, you could still do the burning. The kaimulan we also mentioned previously on Daf Tes a few blot ago. The kaimulan the ice and shiraim asun bachila, that everyone holds the diver koil that you can't eat it. So mahu, what is the din though? The hanil hakatayra, does the hakatayra actually do something? Because you say you could be makter, but you can't eat it. So it's this kind of like middle ground. So what's the din for two dinim? First of all, mikvinu bepigel. Could there be a possibility of pigel over here if you had an improper machshava, or for that matter, lefrikinu midin meila? Would it remove the din of meila, which normally meila is removed? Let's look at Rashi. K'goyin im hikter hakaimitz almanas le'echol shnei shirayim chutz lezmano bepigel. O dilma kivan de'in shirayim nechom haveli kamach shavel echol machar davar shein darkel echol. It's something which is, the Mishnah said it has to be a davar shedarkel echol, but it's not a davar shedarkel echol. Is there a din me'il? Rashi says im hikdiru kedarkoi b'shtika. If you did the haktarah properly, mi'amrin and kivan de nitin rishus laktiroi. Since the haktarah was done properly, havi haktarah malia umafkli shirayim midi me'ila, and therefore maybe there's no longer din me'ila anymore because you were nasik mitzvasa. So the question is, even though you can't eat it, but maybe there's no din me'ila on it anymore. So these are the two questions: is there din pigel? Is there me'ila on this particular situation? Fine. So again, iboihu divrei ha'omer shirayim shechas ben kamitz l'hakatayra mater kaimitz alehin v'kaimelon. The ice and shirayim asun bechil, you definitely can't eat it. So mahu to havu hakatayra lo mikvenu bepigel lo mefrikinu me'il. So that's the question. So Amar Huna feel Rabbi Kiva Demer Zrika Moeles Liyaitse, even according to the sheet of Rabbi Kiva, that says in Masechtas Me'ila that when it comes to Zrika, that it helps when it comes to, if you would then, once you did Zrika, if you take it outside of the Kilayim, says Rashi, Lomahavi Kadavar Sheshul Heto Kohanim, it's considered like it's mutter not to the Kohanim because you already did Zrika. Says Rashi, Lifki Midi Adam Me'iloi, Ashim Me'ilois. There's no longer there's no me'ila on this. Why does Rabbi Kiva say this? The fact that you did the zrika, that removes the me'ila, even though you can't eat it. So Rabbi Kiva, when it comes to this case, he says that once you do zrika, there's no longer an issue of me'ila. It removes the isser of me'ila, right? When it was taken, the car was taken out of the azara. Hani me'ila yaitse. That's only if it was taken out. The isa be'ene, because it's extant, it's still here. V'pasol machmas davaracha. It's possible for a different reason. Who? If let's say it's missing the proper amount after, again, you did the Kemitza, and it's missing, so he said it's puzzled, the psul begufe. The carbon itself is puzzled. It's not that, over there's nothing wrong with the carbon per se, it was just that it was taken out. However, here, there's something wrong with the carbon itself. So, lo mahani le hakatayra, maybe the hakatayra will not remove the din me'ila. So, Emily Rabba Adarabba, Filu Rabba Lezer, the Emer, and Zrika Moelas Liyaitse, according to him, he says that if you would do Zrika, then it doesn't actually do anything to remove the me'ila. Hani me'ili, the only time he says that is yaitse delays bifnim, because it's not inside. Avachisara and the isa bifnim mahanali haktara. Over here, it's actually being done in the right place. It's inside. It's just chaser. So maybe it would remove me'ila. Okay. So Amarava. So mina mina law. How do I know that it does remove the din of me'ila. Did not. Hakaimitz is a mincha. You did kemitza, lechel shireha b'chutz, but you had an improper machshava, that your machshava was that you're going to eat the leftovers outside of the wrong place. So kazayis mishreach chutz, but tani Rabbi Chia, hakaimitz is a mincha. It says you did the kemitza of the mincha, v'lo tani o kazayis. It doesn't say or kazayis. So my time lo tani o kazayis. Why does it mention that? Lav kigayin shechasur shirayim, because it's missing the shirayim. V'kamuluhu a kazayis, and all you have left is a kazayis. V'kivan de matnan kli bihilach v'achatayra lo mastilo, and it doesn't mention this other scenarios who continued based on base. O kazayis ashirayim b'kemitza nami lechel shirayim lotani. So we say, well, it doesn't mention that either. O kazayis. V'gatani say from pigel v'chavan lev kares alma mahanyu lahu hakatayra. The fact that it says that there is a chiv kares, interesting enough, and this is what we saw almost verbatim in Zvachim. The fact that it does make you chayv kares, then it itself shows that it does something, and therefore that would be a proof that would also be remove me'ila. The fact that, again, that there is a din kares, it shows you that after, again, what happened was, you did the kemitza, it's chaser between the kemitza and the haktaira, so the shirayim is so we can't eat, but we see what it, the question is, does it moitz me me'ila? The answer is yes, because we see that an improper machshava of chutz le zmanoi will be mechayv kares. So this carbon, even though you can bring it, you can't eat it, has enough potential that you're going to be chayav kares. Armli abai lo hamani Rabbi Lezer, he did not hakaimitz b'halavayna v'hakatayris. When it comes to all these different things, uminachas kohanim, uminachas kohen Mashiach of the kohen gadol, uminachas nasachim shekrivu b'achas mehen kazayis b'chutz. If you're makriv even one kazayis outside, chayiv. Rabbi Lezer poiter ad sheyikriv es kuloi. So maybe this is like the shita of Rabbi Lezer, that he has this tremendous kula, that he says the only time you're going to be chayiv is not if you're makriv everything. Kivan de b'hakatayris kemitza lo masnilei. So he says, when it comes to the Getaris, the Kemitza doesn't learn it. Of O Kazayas Mekomson Bechutz Mishiraim Nami Lo Mahanile O Kazayas Ira Belezer. So we say, Ira Belezer, Haila Hakta Kumsa Hakta Kumsa, the Lavoina Sama Boile. It should actually include the word Lavoina. Did nan Hakaimitz Vahalavina Shehikrives Echamehem Bechutz, Chayber Belezer Poiter Ad Shiakribes Shnehem. Has to be both of them. So why doesn't it mention in our mission of the Lavoina if it's real like him? The reason why we don't mention anything about the Lavaina, it could really be like him, is because there is no Lavaina. A Minchas Chayte, there is no frankincense. So the Ichbel Tan Lashmin and Kaimetz, the Minchas Chayte, the Tana is going to go so far on his way to worry about this one particular type of a carbon? Of course, that's enough of a reason. The Chen Kiyasa Rav Dimi Omer Belezer Kaimetz the Minchas Chayte, who? Rabbi Lezer, and it's like Rabbi Lezer. Hadam Rava La Milsahi. The truth is, that's not the case with regarding the din of Me'ila. The Amri, because what do we say? The Sanya. Kodesh Kadashim, who? Why does it mention the word who? She'im Nifrasa Achas Mehem Chaloiseha Kulim Psulos. That even if one of them, the breads are crumbled, then that would be enough for it to be puzzle. Ha Yatzus. If let's say one of the breads went out, Hani, Diika Gavoy, and all the other 11 are inside, Ksheris. So the burning of the kaimitz is effective on the thing that it left, because it needs all 12 breads by the lechem upon him. But if it's chaser, then it wouldn't work. So what do we see? So man shaman leida karmis rikamo elos yaitse, that actually does something. Rabbi Kivahi, the ka'amar nifrasaloi, and he says that if it crumbled, then it's all puzzle. So amalei abaya mikatani hayatzis, this diak dilma ha nitmas hanach sheris. Maybe if it's tummy, then it's kosher. My time, but the maratza sits because it sits as maratzit. So it's maratzah tumas mikdash. Of a yaitz as well, but not yaitz. Rabbi Lezer he diarmer ein zerika moelos yaitze. If it did hu di boile misni nami yatsa v'hadigantani nifrasa. Why does it mention that case? Hakamash when they feel nifrasa. The say bifnim that it's still inside. It still doesn't help. But Rabbi Kiva he says it does help the me'ila to be removed. Okay, so that is a little bit of that. Let's take a peek at question 7. Ezu avoida b'mincha he keneged shchita b'zevach. Ezu avoida keneged kabbalah halacha zrika. This is a pretty easy question, which I saw the Rashi on Daf Yud Beis. Let's see where that was. So, yeah. Min b'dal avodas kmitza keneged shchita, kabbalah keneged matan kli, halacha keneged halacha, aktar keneged zrika. That's a pretty simple question. But that's the answer. I wish they'll give me these types of questions on the actual test. Question 8. Lechem haponim sheitz echem ehem benifsel. One of them left is possible because you need all 12. Him yukshru hanach de gavoy bakataris bazichin umastadim zeh. So this we also just had. So this is the answer for question 8. Machlokas Tanaim Rabbi Kiva and Rabbi Lezer. Izrika mo'elos liyaitze v'huadin lahakataris bazichin shiba makam zrika. Because instead of zrika sadam, we have the being mocked there burning of the frankincense, right? So the question is, if zrika helps that me'il is removed, so too be the same thing by the kataris of the bazichin. That would also be the same machlokas. So let's look at question 8 again. Lechem panim shiase echem ehem benifsel. If one of them left, the other ones become kosher by being makter the bezichin. So again, that is the question, whether or not it has the capacity to be remove itself from the dinim of me'ilah. Okay, so that's what it says over here. Rabbi Akiva di Omer Zrika Mo'elos Yaitze Afil Chisar Nami Mahanyule Hakatayra. Okay. All right, that's question 8. Let's move on. Let's see the next Mishnah. Lechol kachatzi zayis. Let's say your machshava was only half of a kazayis. V'lahaktir kachatzi zayis. So kosher she'en achil v'achtar mitzdarfen. So even though you could say, well, this should be mitzdarf, it's half and half, but one is achilas adam, one's achilas mizbech. So Gemara says taima d'lachol haktir. It's because they're two totally separate things. One's for eating, one's for takdairis. If you have two chatzi zaysim, which are both eating things, maybe it should be mistarf. Davar she'ein darkal or davar she'ein darkal echol, it's darf, right? So maybe it should work. Like for example, the kamitza, which is the davar she'ein darkal echol. So maybe the shirayim and the kamitza half and half is a mitzdarf. I have a tani racial echol davar shedarkal echol lahakter davar shedarkal lahakter davar shedarkal echol in. So clearly not, right? If it's something you can't eat. So mantana, so Rabbi Yomi Hamani, Rabbi Lezer, the Yomi Machashim Mechilos Adam, Mechilos Mizbeach, Mechilos Adam. Actually, he holds that it should be mistar, that even though one's Achilos Adam, one's Achilos Mizbeach, it still can be mistar the two. Did not. A kaimet says a mincha. A person is kamitza, and it's le'echol davar shein darko echol, something which is not eating. Lahakter davar shein darko lahakter, something which you don't do haktar with. So kosher, as we said, because it has to be something which is darko echol. Rabbi Lezer paisel. Rabbi Lezer says, I don't care. I still hold it is a problem. Abaye omer fil tema rabban lo tema hol echol echol davar shein darko echol. That if it's two things which are edible, which are inedible, so maybe it still is mitzdarf. El ema hol echol echol davar shedarko echol, something which they are mitzdarf. It's eating and eating things which can be eaten. And my kamashmulan habehedikatanula. That's obvious. Lachol kazayis machutz, kazayis hamachar, kazayis hamachar, kazayis machutz. and then it says this beferish. It says kechatzi zaisi b'chutz, kechatzi zayis l'machar, kechatzi zayis l'machar, kechatzi zayis l'chutz pasul. The in Bokaris. It's only because they're half and half about one is makom, one is man. Yud Gimel Alf. Hasu lamuli. Il echol davar she'ein darko echol. Like for example, kamitza kamash l'man mitzdarif, that it's still mitzdarif echol and echol, even though one is not darko echol. So Mareisha Shemat Mino, we already learned that it does not combine. Diktani, kachatzi zayis b'chutz, kachatzi zayis l'machar, pasul. Ha kachatzi zayis l'machar, kachatzi zayis l'machar pigel. So ilach l'hakdir, if we're talking about one is for the mizbech, one is for the person, so he guva kamashmon medika dereisha shemamina. We already learned that doesn't work either. The hash damalu echol echol davar shein darko echol arbe lo mitzdarif. So if they're both foods and they're not mitzdarif, so echol lahakdir miboy, surely it's not mitzdarif. Where it says in echol lahakdir, it's richale. You would actually think that maybe even though one is for the mizbech and one for the adam, you would, even though it seems like a different plush that this should not be mitzdarif, we still need to mention it. Why? So when it comes to food and food, but if it's davar shein darko echol, so it's something which is clearly not consumed. So maybe only there you would say it would not be mitzdarif. Here, even though one's for the mizbech and one is for the chila, but they're both things that are le'echol. So maybe you would think taka it is mitzdarif kamash malon, that it's not mitzdarif. But again, we don't learn out from here that echol she'in darko echol, that should be mitzdarif. No, that much we're not going to say. Okay, Hanul kol menachos. We finished the first parak. Let's see, question 9. No TA21. Im cholek mahachales yotzekodem hachtaros bazichin im shar hachalos ksherois umazet toloi. This is the same thing. It's machlos tanoim. Yizrika mo'elas liyotze. Right. So because we said zrika, that's the reason why I guess they emphasize this, that zrika is the same thing as haktaira, right? Haktaris of the mincha. So therefore, because of that, TA21, if it actually, again, what we said is if it was chaser after the kamitza, but before haktaira, which you can't eat it, but you could still be makar of it. So the question is, does that remove me'ila? So that's totally on whether or not this is the case as well. If you do zrika, that's mo'eles liyotze as well. Okay. Fine. Question TB 24. Kaimis minchas navdava manasa hakter kumsel machar. Him ze pigol ma ze toloi minchas nedava al manasa haktir kumsel machar. Not sure if that's something which we did. Adkan again hanulach kol menachos hakaimitz es a mincha. If a person is kamitza with a mincha lechol shireha or lahaktir kumsel machar, and your intention is to eat the leftovers and to be maktir the kamitza on the wrong day, so the Rabbi Yosef is shehu pigol v'chayv of kares. So he will agree that you are chayiv kares. What does he mean? If he agrees in that case, what did he disagree with? We'll discuss this in tomorrow's daf. Adkan.